So we're talking about providing really a safe environment, which is the responsibility, after all, of employers.
Window cleaning duty of foreign domestic helpers approved under new safety guidelines.
We don't know the facts, which is why we are calling on the FBI to release all the information that it has.
This is the biggest political scandal since Watergate.
New FBI probe into Hillary Clinton's email scandal. And a show of force by South Korean President Park Geun-hye's critics.
Good evening and welcome. A deal has been reached to allow foreign domestic helpers in Hong Kong to take up exterior window cleaning duty. As Rachel Leung reports, efforts have been made to make sure they work under safe conditions.
The Philippine consulate earlier pushed for a ban on exterior window cleaning for domestic helpers from the country over safety concerns. But the implementation of the new clause was postponed, with the Hong Kong government saying it needed time to consult various stakeholders. Secretary for Labor and Welfare Matthew Jing said today, after meeting with several consul generals from countries that send domestic helpers to Hong Kong, a deal has been reached.
Cleaning the exterior of ground floor windows, and also for the exterior of windows where you got corridors outside, and also safe balconies outside, these are okay. We require an adult, a representative of the employer, to be present in case there is anything that we need to help the helper.
Zheng added Labor Department officials will discuss the issue with employer groups and employee unions on Monday. Previously, it was suggested that the ban on exterior window cleaning would only apply to helpers under new contracts. There are now calls for the new rule to apply to all domestic helpers already working in Hong Kong, totaling about 347,000.
If this regulation will really apply in Hong Kong, it will be applied to all migrant domestic workers and domestic workers locally, not only for the newcomers or those new signed contract, but to all. We don't want those who have already in contract not to have this protection.
Others welcomed the move, but said details have not been well thought out.
What if one party violate that clause? Okay, what will happen to them? At this moment, we still don't know. We have no idea what will be the so-called penalty.
Lee added that the administration needs to be clear on what constitutes violation of the rule. Rachel Leung, TVB News.
Local insurers are set to take a hit from a tougher set of limits on the purchase of policies by mainland customers. The latest guidelines issued by the mainland's dominant payment service firm UnionPay are seen as an attempt to curb capital outflows. Adam Shu has more.
In a statement, UnionPay alerts insurers outside of the mainland not to accept certain kinds of payment from customers using UnionPay cards issued across the border. They include purchases of investment-related products as well as insurance policies other than accidents, deaths and illnesses. Single transactions worth over $5,000 are also to be rejected. It's estimated 30% of new premiums sold in Hong Kong are paid by mainland policyholders, and 30% of the amount is paid via UnionPay. Early this year, authorities across the border capped transactions using UnionPay cards at $5,000 each, prompting many customers to swipe their cards multiple times to buy a policy. A message leaked by industry insiders suggests customers can now swipe their card only once each day. There are now fears Hong Kong insurers will be hit hard.
It is too drastic. It is reasonable for the mainland people to come to Hong Kong buy. How come they can only buy handbags but they cannot buy an insurance policy?
Chen noted the move would deter only the average mainland customers, as the wealthy ones tend to pay from their bank accounts in Hong Kong. UnionPay says the rules were introduced in response to a recent surge in the purchase of policies outside of the mainland using its cards. An academic believes Beijing's concern about capital outflow is behind the measures.
It is more like a gesture showing that the government has a determination to handle the capital flight issue. If
The situation remains and even worse, and there need to make a new measure.
Adam Xu, TVB News.
Former Financial Secretary Anthony Leung says he hopes to see people who can help push Hong Kong forward join the chief executive race. Leung also said those who announce their candidacy or are interested in running all have their strengths. Leung has been tipped as a possible CE hopeful. Secretary for Development Paul Chan said today it's not suitable for him to comment at this point because only one person, retired Judge Wu Kwok-hing, has declared his intention to run. Chan said the most important thing for him right now is to concentrate on his work. Meanwhile, a pro-Beijing figure, Chen Wing-ki of the CPP-CC Standing Committee, today encouraged suitable hopefuls to join the race.
In a stunning turn of events, Hillary Clinton's run for U.S. president is now in trouble. The FBI has decided to reopen its investigation into her use of a private email server over the discovery of new emails that may be classified. In a strange twist, the emails in question were found on a computer belonging to Anthony Weiner, the estranged husband of Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin.
Sources close to the new investigation say the FBI discovered the emails while scrutinizing illicit text messages allegedly sent by Weiner to a 15-year-old girl. Weiner's wife, Abedin, separated from him amid a battery of allegations he was sexting with several women. Abedin admitted to investigators she used several email accounts for her work with Clinton, including a Yahoo email. She said it was difficult to print from the State Department's email system, so she routinely printed emails at home from her private accounts. Knowing she has just over a week to convince Americans to choose her as president, Clinton flew into damage control.
Voting is already underway in our country. So the American people deserve to get the full and complete facts immediately. The director himself has said he doesn't know whether the emails referenced in his letter are significant or not. I'm confident, whatever they are, will not change the conclusion reached in July.
Clinton went on to demand the FBI expedite its probe.
Therefore, it's imperative that the Bureau explain this issue in question, whatever it is, without any delay.
But it was like Christmas came early for Donald Trump, who celebrated the bombshell revelation with his supporters.
As you might have heard earlier today, the FBI, after discovering new emails, is reopening their investigation into Hillary Clinton.
He went on to paint Clinton as a reckless person who jeopardized national security.
This is the biggest political scandal since Watergate, and I'm sure that it will be properly handled from this point forward.
Clinton has repeatedly apologized for using a private email system while serving as Secretary of State. If these latest emails do contain highly classified information, the FBI may have to file criminal charges against Clinton.
It's a busy weekend for U.S. aviation safety investigators after two dramatic plane fires on the same day. At Chicago O'Hare International Airport yesterday, pilots were forced to abort a takeoff and evacuate passengers from a burning American Airlines flight. Officials say the airliner experienced a rare and serious type of uncontained engine failure on the runway. 21 people suffered minor injuries as they were rushed to evacuate. The Boeing 767 was built in 2003 and is among the airline's youngest planes of that model. Meanwhile, a FedEx cargo plane caught fire while landing at the airport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The plane was arriving from Memphis when the fire broke out. Officials believe that left the landing gear collapsed on the runway. Both pilots escaped without injury.
Thousands of demonstrators have flooded the streets after South Korean President Park Geun-hye ordered 10 of her senior secretaries to resign. The move comes as investigators probe whether Park let a friend, the daughter of a religious cult leader, interfere in important state affairs. On Tuesday, Park admitted that she provided longtime friend Choi Soon-sil drafts of her speeches for editing. Her televised apology sparked huge criticism about her mismanagement of national information and heavy-handed leadership style. There's also speculation that Choi meddled in government decisions on personnel and policy and exploited her ties with the president to misappropriate funds for nonprofit organizations.
Thousands of Thai people flocked to the Grand Palace in Bangkok today to pay their final respects to their beloved king who recently passed away. Long lines of people waited in the heat and humidity to mourn King Bhumibol Adulyadej. The king died on October 13th after a 70-year reign. For the first time, an estimated 10,000 mourners per day will be allowed inside the palace over the coming months. No date has been set yet for the king's cremation, though it is expected to take place in about a year.
Still ahead in tonight's news. Paul Chan plays down concerns about the city overdeveloping. Hong Kong man arrested in New Zealand over record meth seizure. And the Indians retake the lead in the World Series.
And welcome back. Development Chief Paul Chan has played down fears Hong Kong would be overdeveloped. This after the government unveiled a long-term strategic blueprint beyond 2030 with a focus on new territories north and east Lantau. Caleb Leung has more.
The government says it is lacking 1,200 hectares of land for the city's long-term development. The new territories north and east Lantau metropolis, or ELM, will offer a total of 1,700 hectares. Paul Chen said as of now, the government will likely develop new territories north first.
I think that can be taken forward on an incremental basis because some of the area are very close to existing infrastructure. So in developing those areas, the additional investment in infrastructure will be minimal as compared to ELM, which would require a whole set of infrastructure investment, which is massive. So it seems to me going for new territory north as the first step, at least part of it, is the logical step to follow.
The blueprint also suggests Hong Kong will be able to accommodate a population of 9 million people after developing new territories north and east Lantau metropolis. However, the Census and Statistics Department projects the population will peak at around 8 million in 2040, beginning to fall. Chen says he's confident there won't be problems of overdevelopment as household figures will also be considered.
There is also one very interesting phenomenon, that is the household size is also dropping. Even with a drop in population in subsequent years, the number of households mainly remains stable. So in that sense, the land required, when we calculate the amount of land required, we should not just make reference to population, but have to give regard to household.
Chen says the development plan will be finalized after the end of a 6-month public consultation. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
2 firefighters who were killed in an industrial building blaze in Nau Tau Kok in June have each been posthumously awarded the Medal of Bravery in recognition of their contribution. They were among more than 300 recipients in today's honors and awards presentation ceremony. Senior fireman Samuel Hoy's widow and son received the honor from Chief Executive Len Chung-ying. The family of Senior Station Officer Thomas Jung was absent from today's ceremony. 29 other firefighters were also honored today. The top civic honor, Grand Bohemia Medal, went to 7 people, including Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam and former DAB lawmaker Tam Yu Chung.
Overseas again, authorities in New Zealand say they've made their largest ever seizure of methamphetamine. A Hong Kong man has been charged in connection with the case. Authorities say the drugs were concealed in tea leaf packaging and hidden inside 10 shipping containers, which were carrying scaffolding. The haul is worth 176 million New Zealand dollars. That's more than 950 million Hong Kong dollars. The record seizure was the result of a 16-month investigation into a company believed to have been set up last year to smuggle methamphetamine. A 20-year-old Hong Kong man appeared in court in Auckland yesterday. He's accused of trying to smuggle the drugs into New Zealand. Authorities there say they're working with their counterparts from Hong Kong and the mainland as part of their probe.
Horror gripped residents of the Australian city of Brisbane when a bus driver was killed yesterday after he was set on fire. Police say the driver, an Indian migrant, was the victim of a random attack. A passenger boarded his bus and deliberately hurled an incendiary device at him. As the driver was engulfed in flames, terrified passengers screamed and fought to escape. The 29-year-old bus driver was remembered as a passionate singer, as well as loved member of Australia's Punjab community. A 48-year-old man was arrested and charged with murder. Police insist motives of terrorism or race are not a factor.
Syrian rebels have launched a broad offensive against the army and its allies as they aim to break the government's siege on the northern city of Aleppo. But as the country sinks deeper into a costly civil war, the government and its allies are vowing to intensify their fight against the rebels. The counterattack by the rebel coalition, which includes jihadist groups, is the latest attempt to break a weeks-long siege in eastern Aleppo. Video posted online by rebels shows their fighters battling with government forces using heavy shelling and even suicide car bombs. Human rights observers say more than a dozen civilians have been killed and 100 wounded in the fighting. Hundreds have been killed in recent weeks. Aleppo, which has been divided for years, is Syria's biggest pre-war city, and the government is determined to retake it. The Sunni rebel-held east includes groups supported by Turkey, Gulf monarchies, and the United States. The western sector is held by the regime of President Bashar al-Assad and is backed by Iran, Russia, and Shiite militias. The Russian military accuses opposition fighters of taking advantage of a 10-day moratorium on military flights over the city to attempt to break the siege. Officials have asked President Vladimir Putin to allow the resumption of airstrikes in Syria to put down the latest rebel offensive. But Putin has rejected the request, believing that restarting airstrikes now would be inadvisable. During a meeting in Moscow, the Russian, Syrian, and Iranian foreign ministers vowed to step up their fight. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the intensified fight would come in parallel with efforts to improve humanitarian aid access. But UN officials have blamed the Syrian government for denying humanitarian access to eastern Aleppo. Western nations accuse Russia of deliberately attacking a UN-backed aid convoy in September in rebel-held territory. The assault killed more than a dozen humanitarian workers and destroyed hundreds of tons of cargo.
The European Union and Canada will sign their long-delayed trade pact tomorrow. The agreement was now overcome its final hurdle. The holdout Belgian region of Wallonia endorsed the deal yesterday. The French-speaking region's parliament voted by 58 votes to 5 with no abstentions in support of the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. Wallonia had been holding up the deal, afraid that it would undermine labor, environment, and consumer standards and allow multinationals to crush local firms. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is expected to be in Brussels for the signing ceremony. All right, James, what do you have? And that is a wrap of our news.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.